All right, so welcome everyone to Agile in Color Share Your Story series. I am Nicole Spence-Goon and I'm going to be your host tonight. And I'm a member of the core team for Agile in Color. In the Share Your Story series, we come together for this semi-quarterly meetup event where we profile various Black Agilists, tech professionals, and thought leaders. And the goal is to tell stories we don't normally get to hear and understand each person's Agile journey from a Black Agilist or technology professional perspective. So we hope by hearing these stories, our Agile community will be able to identify with the storyteller and visualize their own possibilities. So tonight, we are featuring Keila Lantigua Ortega. Hopefully I got that all right. And in this series, in the Share Your Story series in general, we keep the community connected by having our prior spotlighted speaker, in this case, Ibal Silvera, select who we should talk to next. And here we are with the opportunity to share her story. So you'd be amazed at how connected we are in some of our similar experiences as Black professionals. So Keila has a wide array of expertise in billing payments, policy management, marketing analytics, and point of sale systems. But she is passionate about the product mindset, financial literacy, career empowerment, and DI through getting in community involvement. That is just a snippet, a tip of the iceberg about her. So Keila would like you to introduce yourself so we can all learn about you and what inspires you.
Hey everyone, my name is Keila. I am very, very excited to be here. In my daytime, I work for Liberty Mutual Insurance as a product owner too. I predominantly own a system called Crest, and I'm aligned to billing and payments for this system. Crest is a homegrown system that we're building in Liberty Mutual for all of our employees to be able to service our customers. Our biggest challenge with Crest and what we're trying to build is we're trying to consolidate about 150 tools into one. So you can imagine just the amount of a village that it takes to get there. So that's a little bit about what I do today. Before this role that I'm in now, I have had about 5 different roles at Liberty Mutual, all working in different spaces and in different systems. Outside of work, I went to NYU for my MBA, actually graduated last year. And then prior to that, I went to UMass Amherst for undergrad. My family is originally from Dominican Republic, but I've been in the US all my life, constantly going back there. But I'm really, really passionate about software product development and product mindset. And I'm really excited to just share some of the things that I've learned along the way in the various systems that I've worked in so far.
Thank you. Um, so you telling me a little bit about your Dominican heritage. So where exactly did you grow up as a kid?
I'm not sure if we're all familiar with Massachusetts, but I'm from Lynn, Massachusetts, which actually has this connotation of city of sin. It's constantly reminded, and if like you say I'm from Lynn, the first thing people usually say, oh, the city of sin. But yeah, I grew up originally in Lynn, Massachusetts, went through a lot of financial trauma. My family and I went through a lot of financial trauma growing up. I live in New York City now, but Lynn will always be home looking back. So
Wow. I have not heard about that in the city of Sin. This is new to me. I'm gonna have to look this up now. I thought that was strictly for Las Vegas, but now I know it's like Vegas. Is this the Vegas of the East Coast? I don't know. Oh my gosh.
It actually has a chant. I don't know if you've heard it, but it says, Lynn, Lynn, city of sin, you never go back the way you go in. So definitely, again, this connotation that just follows follows Lynn. But lots of great people who I know from Lynn. So
Awesome. Yeah, we're gonna have to go check it out. Definitely. All right. So I know you told us a little bit about your where you went to school, but how did you actually get started in kind of like tech product management? What was really what really sparked your interest there?
So my career, I was first a claims specialist, so very frontline, working predominantly on workers' compensation claims for our customers. And I found myself always creating different tools to make my life easier as a claims specialist. And then I would share those tools with everyone on my team just to see how they would benefit from the tools. To see just understanding, like, is it solving problems for everyone or is it more so a single-sided problem? And so through that, I tried to find an opportunity where I can actually create tools full time. And I've dedicated, after that role, all of the roles I've had at Liberty have predominantly been working on creating tools, executing tools, or maintaining tools. My passion behind that is that I feel as employees every day, we have so much that we need to accomplish. And tools only make us more efficient so that we're able to focus on the items that really bring us joy throughout our day. So for me, I think it sparked more so of a personal interest of like, how can I make my life easier? But then through time, I started to realize that the tools that I was creating and working on brought a lot of value to my peers and decided to see how I can grow a career around product management. At the time, I don't think that it was, I think at the time when I was developing, they more so called it project management and understanding how you can work with an IT team and also the business side to bring various different projects to market. However, I always found myself working alongside a product owner and finding ways to be like their sidekick in a way. So although I was on the project side, I would seek for opportunities to say, hey, like, what can I help you advance? Like, what can I try to take on to just try to get a little bit more exposure to the product side? And through that, I was able to really realize that one, product owners in general, like, I love the way that they think. I love the way that they work with teams. And so as I got more exposure to the role and gained interest in the role, I decided to see how can I develop myself outside of work. So not just on a job responsibility basis, but also education basis. And I focused my MBA on software product management so that I could really bring those skills forward as I became a product owner.
Okay, that's really cool. Um, so what have you found most rewarding in your current role that you're in right now?
There's so much. There's so much with my current role because so Liberty, it's not a tech company, right? Our primary product is insurance products. Because we're not tech forward in the sense that our predominant product is technology, it tends to be in the back burner from an organization perspective, right? We prioritize more so how are we selling more of our insurance products than we do enabling more innovative technology. And what I have just found in this role is servicing has always been looked at as an expense, right? Because as you create more tools, you have to maintain them, which is just driving more costs for companies. I have felt that it's actually a different perspective. I think servicing and tools enable us to be able to service more customers and be able to be more effective and more efficient. And I have felt that this space that I'm in now, it's taken them, right? I think all the tools are about 20 to 30-year-old tools. So really legacy, old systems that we're looking to break down and create new processes. And what I've just learned is that all of that resistance that's been ignored for the past 20 years just continues to compile and compile and compile until eventually you get to a place that there is nowhere to go but to crash it down and start over. So for me, one of the most rewarding things that I have found is one, finding value and understanding that you can't put, too many bandages on something. At some point, the bandage is going to explode. And then secondly, like understanding that you're not going to really find a happy path 1000% of the time, in the sense that you may find a tool right now that works for you really well. but you'll iterate that over and over and over again so that you can try to continue to deliver value instead of just, create, oh, I'm going to throw out a new tool here and another tool here, and another tool here. This space has really allowed me to be more strategic and understanding how do all of these tools come together, because we are consolidating 150 tools into one platform. And you can just imagine, like, all of it is different user experience designs. They all function differently. The buttons are in different places. And at one point, once you put all of that together, your head can spin, right? So for me, the most rewarding has really been gaining an understanding of how can we break this down and start with a fresh perspective without trying to recreate what they already have.
Yeah. That's the challenge for people, is to kind of break out of the mold of which they're currently or have been working in for a long time, and think about a different way to approach the same work that's easier. People get used to like the hard way of doing things because it's like, well, that's just what we're used to doing, so we just keep on doing it. So I think it's real that in and of itself is bringing that innovative thought process to a team is really important, especially if they have been used to operating in the same way for quite some time. So my kudos to you and those 150 tools you're trying to put together and not make it a Frankenstein.
Yeah. And I also will say, I think part of it is people tend to run away from complexity. Like, the reason why these bandages exist is because it's a lot harder to break the bandage and start from scratch, right? So I think understanding that complexity will take time. And I think with Agile, because it's continuous development, we kind of want to speed through things, but there are certain complex items that require a lot of attention to detail and slowing down so that you can iterate in a way that's more progressive, as in just breaking down chunks, which all is allowed through Agile methodologies, like allows you to really look at a piece of a problem instead of trying to break the whole thing up at once. But definitely feel it for complexity purposes, like the bandages eventually will pop for sure.
That's true. That's very true. So what would you say has been one of your biggest challenges while you've been on this particular journey in your career?
I think one of my biggest challenges is advocating, managing upwards while trying to advocate on behalf of innovation, because when technology innovation isn't the number one priority, you can at times find yourself creating multiple business cases to truly try to prove why building a certain functionality is worth it. So I feel that bringing others along that journey can be very challenging at times. As a product owner, you sit with the team every day, so you see the challenges, you're living them with them. But sometimes when you're communicating that upwards, it's hard to really share how, like, the complexity and the difficulty behind it when that person doesn't have a technical background. So for me, what I have found most challenging is just how can I try to deliver this message in a way that's going to land, in a way that's easy to understand, and also just not withholding what's really happening at the squad level. Because what you don't want to do, right, is minimize the challenges that you have as a team. They're very real, but at the same time, you don't want them to just be brushed over when you're managing upwards, those expectations. So for me, I feel like living through those challenges day to day can kind of, in a way, put a toll on how you see the development, and then still being able to celebrate the wins as you go, while leadership is understanding all the different challenges that you're trailblazing through, because it's not easy, especially through Agile, while you're trying to iterate as you go.
Yeah, it is. But I mean, I think what you're uh pinpointing there is really just having the safety to speak that truth and saying, hey, there is a real problem here that we need to take care of, instead of just trying to keep it to yourselves and maybe figure out how to resolve it, but you actually probably need support and stuff like that. So, that in and of itself is really important, as well, that you all have the power to raise those things and be heard at the same time as well. So that's awesome. That's awesome. Um, I know that there are sometimes some barriers that um, uh, people trying to enter like the product management space might have. Um, and if there was anybody who is trying to break into that space, um, was there any particular advice you would give to them about how to best make their way, how to get started?
Yeah, absolutely. I think one thing people don't do enough is reflect on their past experiences.
Mm,
Every experience that every person goes through is valuable in every single way, but it's a matter of how can you connect it back to what you're trying to do. Like,
mhm,
still to this day, who I was as a claims specialist has added value to who I am as a product owner. And I don't even work in claims anymore. I work in billing and systems, so it's completely different. But those skills that I learned along the way all add up. So I would say, for anyone who's looking to break into product management, um, for starters, is to reflect on the career that you've had so far. There's definitely something that you've led or championed on your own, that you've tried to bring a new idea to market or anything of that nature. Lean into that and see how you can try to relate to where you're trying to head to, whatever role that is that you're looking at. And then secondly, I would say look for opportunities without even being a product manager already. Like, if you are somebody who, let's just say you're in cybersecurity, start looking at the tools that you use every day and just even treating that as its own project. Like, what would I be doing with this to drive more value or make it more efficient? Or what are some of the things that I personally like about this tool or don't like? So that you can really try to start developing that product mindset of how you can deliver more value. I've heard of a lot of people that they can't break into product management right away because they don't have the experience. I would argue that you have experience and it's valuable experience, but it's more so how you can connect those dots back to what you're aiming to do. Especially if you've never been a product manager or product owner,
yeah,
starting with, even if it's LinkedIn, like criticizing how LinkedIn is set up today, or if you use any type of budget tool, like just start with the tools that you use day in and day out and think about like, what are some of the things that I really like and don't like? Because a big part of being a product owner or product manager is truly driving value for the end user who is benefiting from this tool at the end of the day, and how can you add more value so that they increase adoption, maintain adoption, and then also just be like the tool self for itself. So I would say, like, try to see around yourself, like anything that you use daily, and start thinking how you can make it better for your own needs. Because pretty soon, once you work in a PM or PO space, you really want to be like in the shoes of your user. Like, how are they being impacted day in and day out by what you're building?
yeah, definitely. I have some advice for some websites that I use on a regular basis. So, mm, who knows? I might be ready for product management. But I think that's awesome. Because I know when anybody who's changing careers, that's always the struggle, is like, how do I break in? How do I get started? How do I connect, to just find my way there. So, thank you for sharing that. Um, I know, it's definitely takes a lot of dedication to pursue a particular path. Like once you make the decision to go down a certain road, you have to be focused and all of that stuff. Um, and usually we have people who are helping or guiding us or mentoring us or providing us with advice. So, what has been the best career advice that you've ever received?
To lean into your strengths.
All
I
right.
think that for me has been a game changer because so my family's first generation and everything is about trying to mimic what was successful for others. Truly, they look as I grew up, it was like, okay, this family had this and did that and did that. So that was successful. And that's the meaning of success. I have learned that trying to put yourself into a box that you are not enjoying, you don't feel like you're growing, you don't feel engaged. You're only hurting yourself more because you're trying to force yourself into something that you know is not in alignment for you. And there are things that you are actually really great at that you're not thinking of because it's second nature to you. And so because you see that it's your nature and your state, like you don't tend to celebrate that as much. So even if you're in a performance review or you're getting feedback from different teams, feedback is a gift, but it's more so what does it mean to you? How does it represent you? How do you connect to that feedback? And you don't have to like implement every single thing that or critique that anybody gives you in the workplace. If you and yourself know exactly like what is it that fills your cup, what fuels you, what drives you, what keeps you engaged, lean into that as much as you can because it's going to bring you towards all the different places and projects that you're actually going to end up enjoying instead of dreading. Um, Lean into your strengths as much as you can.
Indeed. I'll, I think that's also a challenge to think about when you're getting feedback that might not be as more on the constructive side, to remember there are strengths you do have, and so that it's not always all all on the bad side, that you have to remember there's also things that you're always good at. So that's something important to definitely keep in mind. Um, so for you, how do you measure success? What does success mean to you?
For me, I drive it through impact, the impact that I'm making on my friends around me, my family around me, my squad that I work with day in and day out. Um, I think for my end, as long as I'm impacting those around me, I feel that I'm being as successful as I can and bringing value to as many people as I possibly can. I think from a product perspective, another way that I like, I guess, physically measure the success that we're having with the product is making sure that we're making data-driven decisions and having ways to measure how our tools are performing. But even with that, like there's crazy metrics like amount of clicks or amount of load time. For me, it's more so how are we creating churn for our end user? Are we making their life harder? Is their job more miserable because of, 4 extra clicks that we're introducing? So overall, I think I want to really understand like how our end user is receiving the tools, how they're using it day in and day out. And is it really able to adapt to their needs, not so much how we see the product every day.
Hmm. Yeah. That's important to think about, definitely, for sure. Um, in terms of more thinking about successful strategies, what would you say, what skills would you say have been the most beneficial on this product owner journey that you're on right now?
I would say one of the major things is facilitation between different engineers, right? Um, this may be a little different though, because Liberty right now we don't have Scrum Masters. There are some organizations that do, and usually Scrum Masters take on a lot of facilitation. But in my day to day, I don't have a Scrum Master. I don't work with one, so facilitating brainstorming sessions, design thinking sessions with different people who think very differently is something that I would recommend working on if you're looking to become a product owner or product manager, because you will be not just facilitating brainstorming sessions with your engineers, but also when you're having feedback sessions with the end users for your different tools. It's really important to acknowledge all the different voices that are present in the room. And also just being able to see if others aren't as engaged and seeing how you can encourage them to step in or step back, depending on how much they're participating in the conversation. And then secondly, I would say being able to be adaptive, which is the whole mojo with Agile. If there's one thing for certain is things are going to keep changing and at a very astronomical speed. So as you get yourself familiar with change, like you could be working on something for 4 months and then the business might come back and say, we don't want to do this anymore. And really being adaptive to, okay, I have to disconnect myself from what we've been building for the past 4 months and pivot towards a whole new epic, which has happened to me multiple times where I've had to abandon something I was working because newer priorities shifted and I was needed elsewhere. And it doesn't mean that, what you were building before isn't meaningful. It's just that there's other things that are more meaningful. So being adaptive is definitely a major part. And then the last thing I would call out is the product mindset. Product mindset is all about value, like how you can create more value for the people that you work with, the tools that you're creating. And value looks very different, right? Like I think about laptops back in the day when they were created, all they really needed to have was a keyboard, a mouse, and a screen. Everything else has been added, right? Like cameras, touch screen, different applications, like all of that didn't exist. So as you're thinking through like that continuous development and iteration, realizing that the value is always going to be there and you're always going to have new feedback to react to and add more features to what you're building. And it's just like a beautiful journey because you start with an apple and you might end up with an apple pie. You never know. It could go in another direction too. You never know.
That's right. Or an apple martini, who knows?
Yeah. And it is, I was gonna say it's not 5 o'clock, but it is 5 o'clock somewhere, I'm sure.
Oh, it's 5 o'clock for me. So have you ever had to help other people on your teams adapt and switch gears? Like, telling that story about working on something for a few months and then having to switch gears. Have you had to assist other people who might not have been able to or find the switch challenging? Adapting, they have problems adapting to that kind of change?
Yeah, so my current squad and we've been together working for about 2.5 years, same developers and then same product owner for the past 2.5 years. And we have had 6 pivots to 6 totally new epics, 6 new projects. And each time I've had to motivate the team all over again because the team is very, very committed and dedicated towards what we're about to launch. And then right then and there, it's like, oh no, there's a bigger priority. Like we have to shift and switch. And then we have to end up, what's happened to us though, the projects aren't being abandoned all the way. They're just being given to another team to maintain while we then go and start something new. And I think what has happened with us specifically is that our team has become sort of like a starter team where we just start things and have really great foundation, which then another team comes and picks up. However, for engineers, it's the code switching is really hard because as your tool becomes more mature, subject matter expertise of what your tool is doing lives with your team. You're creating it as you go, and you know it very well. when you switch that domain, like let's just say, for example, you go from a policy management tool to like a billing tool, to total different language, different scenarios,
Mhm.
different everything. What I have learned to bring everyone along the journey through the change is one, just acknowledging this is pretty chaotic. This is pretty stressful. This is, we have to now shift and switch, and we have to disconnect ourselves from what we were building to now enter this whole new mindset and this new persona. Because that's another thing, is that as we're building, it might not always be for the same person at the end of the day. So my first step in trying to bring the team along the journey is one, just creating space to talk about this is hard, and we're gonna work through a little bit of chaos for a bit until we get back on our momentum. So one is creating space for the team to just acknowledge and reflect on what's happening. But then secondly, once we're into that new project, like how can we get ourselves into the end user's shoes? How can we try to wrap our minds around now? And what that's going to look like is very different, because now it's a new domain, it's new documentation we're looking through. We're getting to know our new users. We're trying to understand what is this new problem we're solving for.
Mhm.
So the second thing really is exposure. How can we try to, all of us at the same time, get exposed to this new mission that we're trying to get behind? And then the last thing is I try very hard to keep the vision and strategy up front at all times, so that doesn't get lost in
Mm.
dialogue. When we go into grooming sessions, retros, everything, the first thing we do is ground ourselves, and this is the vision that we're building for. This is a strategy that we are tackling, and making space for that conversation. How do we feel about our mission? How do we feel about our strategy? Do we think it's working? And if not, like, let's make pivots. But what I just have learned is that if you detach yourself from who you're building, you can get very caught up in your own head in terms of like, are you even driving value for the ultimate end user? So I think those are the three things that I prioritize when starting a whole new project, and then bringing the squad along with me.
Mm. Yeah, that's that's great, because I mean, I know how difficult it could be for a team to like, oh, I was working on this, and now I have to go do something else. Where they're, especially for developers, they're like creating their own little babies, and it's like, oh, but now I have to give it to somebody else. I have other things left here to do. So, yeah, I think that's really important that you actually give them that room to process the change and acknowledge that, it's not easy, but that you can make the shift and take the time to like, okay, this is a compliment actually, because if your team is being seen as like, oh, you kind of are like the lean startup team. You're great at innovating and creating new solutions that you just they keep wanting to give you guys this new challenge, so to speak. So that's, it's a little bit of both, but that's pretty cool though. I really like that. Um,
Yeah, and I think you're spot on though. The code switching is really hard for developers because they themselves get very, very engaged with what they're building, and it's almost like their baby, like you said.
mhm.
Um, but I think over time, what I have also learned is if you take a moment to celebrate all of the work they have done and really championing like how far they've brought something across the finish line before starting something new, it also gives them an opportunity to say, like, this was awesome, we did that. Like, also celebrate all the wins before just going to a brand new project and okay, now we're starting all over again, to just really keep that momentum and positivity going, because it is hard. The code switching is hard because they do get very, very attached to the different things that they're building.
Mm, yeah, awesome. So I feel like that's really great that you've been able to create that space for the team, especially when they're going through that kind of transition. Um, what qualities do you think other modern leaders today are lacking that they need?
I don't I want to say it's like a skill. I would say it's more so like the lack of understanding, lack of ability to truly wrap your head around the problems that are happening at the squad level. I see this way too frequently in various departments that I've been in. I feel that because we have different products like Microsoft and Google, and everything looks so chic and seems really simple, if you don't really know what goes into technical software development, you can very easily minimize a problem that's actually a huge problem, and also minimize steps that teams are taking that are actually huge steps. So I would just recommend for any leaders out there that they pause, take some time to understand the problems that teams are facing, and really just pausing to understand, like, okay, why couldn't it be done this way? Or why isn't it being done so fast? Like those kinds of comments that are made. I would just recommend that, you pause. I don't think you need to learn all things that go into coding. That's not what it's about. It's just more so wrapping your head around the different challenges that squads go through to bring a tool to market, so that they can have just a broader understanding and appreciation to all of the day in and day out actions that happen.
So bringing more empathy, really just trying to walk in the team's shoes as opposed to like, why aren't you doing this fast enough?
Yeah, like Microsoft updates every week. Why can't we have an update every week? Like that kind of thing.
Sure. Not a problem. We'll get right on that. Yeah. But yeah, I think that empathy is really is truly a skill and a quality that is great to have in your leaders, because then it will create more trust. If somebody is at least taking the time to try and understand your perspective on the work, like how challenging it is to get this across the finish line, or what kind of blockers we're facing and how substantial they are, I think that will build a lot of trust between those who are actually doing the development work and those who will ultimately benefit and be able to like promote it to the greater user base. I think that is truly is a quality that we should have in more leaders. I definitely think not just leaders, but anybody on your team really can benefit from something like that.
I would actually even say that empathy is a huge tool for product management as well, because you'll know very quickly that you won't know everything that your end user knows, and they're not always going to say how they feel. And part of it is really putting your own self in their shoes and understanding, like, even as you're testing what you're building, as a PO or a PM, like you're one of the first ones to be clicking through the tool, see how it's functioning. Just even that part of like, let me not think from my point of view as somebody who's been building this for the past 4 months. Like, let me detach myself from that and pretend I'm somebody who doesn't know anything about this, and just go straight into the tool. I would say the empathy is huge for product management, because it'll impact your ability to iterate, and also your ability to see what is valuable to your end users. There's a lot of things that you can think of on your own, but unless you have the ability to connect and understand what are those challenges that they see day in and day out. Like for me, the system that I'm building on right now is for our customer service reps. I had to sit with them, let's say for like a week, to really see like them clicking in and out of 100 and something tools. And that quickly, like, it's absolutely bananas actually to think that somebody knows how to memorize, how to find things in 100 different places for totally different calls. Like it took me like, being able to sit with them, seeing them click in and out of different things to really understand like how this impacts their day to day, which then resulted in our team being able to build something better. It's really hard for you to build something better when you don't understand how something functions already and how they're receiving it. And if it's causing pain or not.
Mm. Yeah, I can imagine that as being somebody in customer service and you're not being served yourself.
Like literally, if you think about how you have maybe a, not everybody's upset, right? I have seen a lot of customers that call customer service and they're not upset, but there are many customers, let's say if your credit card was charged twice, right? Like that, I would be upset. And if you have a yelling customer on top of having to learn multiple different tools that are being thrown at you is really frustrating. And I think that because of empathy, like you have the ability to put yourself in their shoes and see this is a horrible experience, not just for them, but also for the customer who's waiting to find out what's happening with their billing.
Yeah, that's yeah. It's can't be said enough. It can't be said enough. Empathy is key. Um, so switching a little bit more onto growing and in your career and that kind of thing. So, how do you yourself focus on your growth? How do you continue to grow and develop as an agile leader in the position you're in?
I definitely love to keep in touch with any of like the scrum.org articles that are released. I'm really keen on keeping up with the product thinking podcasts by Melissa Perry. I am outside of like, I guess, resources that I keep up with on a weekly basis. I try to surround myself by sponsors and mentors. Anybody who I see that I think there's something that I admire about them or something that I feel they've done really well, I'll reach out to them, see if I can do a coffee chat, learn a little bit about what works for them, what doesn't. So trying to see like, I guess, who inspires me or people who I see do things really well and try to see how I can learn from them. And then from a outside perspective, I feel like I try to go to as many team workshops as possible with my squad. So I don't go by myself. I try to really bring the squad along the journey as I'm learning new things to try to keep our skills as general, like as our squad skills are developing, to try to keep us all growing together. I think it's
Mhm.
really important for us to evolve as a team as we go and not just me, myself. So really trying to make sure I bring the squad alongside the journey. I think the last thing I'll probably call out is I make sure that my manager is aware of my goals and where I'm headed, because I want to make sure that as opportunities come about, that she knows when to mention my name or recommend me for certain opportunities. From day one, I was very transparent with her that I wanted to grow in the product space, and I was able to get promoted in a year and a half. So she was very, I feel like because I communicated that with her, she was seeking out those opportunities for me to demonstrate my abilities and be able to get promoted. But outside of just promotions in general, it's just like, where do I see myself in 5 or 10 years? I make sure that she knows that so that as things come about, she has me top of mind.
Yeah, nice. Um, so another angle on the growth side of things. What has been the worst uh leadership decision you've ever made? What have you grown from?
Oof. Worst decision made. I think worst decision made, probably giving recommendations on how many people a squad should have. When I first started,
Mm,
I I was a first time product owner. Came in and I was like, oh, like I think I can do this with 4 people. And I went to the engineering manager and said, hey, like I think I only need a team of 4 people. Without really wrapping my head around like what is the work that happens behind the scenes. Um, I quickly realized that that wasn't enough, and I also found myself drowning in work all the time. So I think what I learned from that though is I was very fresh in my role, very new, and I didn't have enough lens to provide a recommendation to the engineering manager. So looking back, like what I would have done now is allow myself more time to just get to know my space before trying to create a team. so that I can prepare myself and prepare the team in a lot better way.
Yeah. 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 No, that's the key, right? You keep growing from all of these experiences and now you know. So what is the biggest risk that you've ever taken?
Risks. I think I was very, I wouldn't say it's risky, but like I really wholeheartedly pursued product management at all costs. Like I would not stand down. I would continuously look for opportunities to try to become a product owner um, in any way that I possibly could. And what that looked like, whether it's courses um, or people that I was connecting with, like I just truly tried my best to land this opportunity, but in a way that was supported and figuring out like what resources are out there that I could take advantage of. And then also who are like the key people that I admire in that space that I can possibly learn from. I think sometimes we may feel a little scared to reach out to some people that we see do really well. But what I have found is reaching out to people that are already excelling in their spaces. They're actually super eager to share like all of their insights and what they've learned. And so for me, I feel like the risks have been mainly like pursuing what I want at all costs, even if it means, you know, spending more time outside of work developing myself and developing relationships that would propel me to where I was wanting to go.
Yeah, it's all in. You're all in. So with that drive and persistence, what would you say has been your proudest moment?
I think my proudest moment is that I always celebrate the team. Like I always bring it back to the team. And just now we what we just deployed and launched, we're getting feedback that it's one of the best features they've seen in their entire employee history at Liberty. And for me, like what I feel most proud of isn't the feedback that it's the best tool they've seen. I feel like my favorite part of it is being able to celebrate the team and all the wins that they've had because software development is so muddy. Every day you're seeing challenges, every day you're tinkering, every day you're sitting on like I don't know how this data is going to work. It's just constant problems and you actually feel like you're putting out fires every day. But then the minute that you launch something, it's very key on like okay, let's start what's next, like let's just start the next thing. um I'm very big on like no, we're gonna we're gonna take these 2-3 days, we're gonna celebrate it, we're gonna reflect, we're gonna do a retro, like what were all the great things that helped us throughout the process, like what can we learn, what can we do differently going into the next epic that we're taking on. So for me, I can't say that it's like what I've launched. I think it's just the celebration with the team and making sure that they feel valued and that the process that we just went through, even though it was very, muddy and not a happy path straight forward, really just being able to celebrate all the ups and downs because they were worth it. At the end of the day, we all learned, we all grew, we come out different people on the other side of the launch.
I'm a big fan of virtual confetti because you don't have to clean it up. Right? I was like,
Yeah.
yes, confetti, confetti, confetti.
I might need the confetti because actually, so fun fact for my team, we're all remote. We're a remote team. I'm remote. I don't work every day with the squad. We're not in an office all day. We're actually mainly in meetings. So I might have to take you up on the virtual confetti so I can try to celebrate that way.
Yep, I think Miro has the best virtual confetti. Like it's so easy to just pop confetti off there. So yeah, I make great use of it. But Mural also does it too. For those who are Mural fans, Mural has their confetti as well. All great confetti. Don't want to don't want to upset anybody on their confetti over here. Um, so what goals are you striving for right now?
Right now, I think I'm because I'm coming up on my 10-year anniversary at Liberty Mutual, which is bananas. I think, and I don't know if this is an okay thing to say, but I am kind of starting to think about what's next for me and where else I may want to grow. And I think for right now, I want to possibly think about where can I be where technology is the product, and innovation is at the front and center. And so where I'm looking to grow my skills is, of course, be the best product owner that I can be where I'm at. But my hope is to be able to take my skills, and work with a team where the product that we're building is the product that the company is selling, not just what we're building internally.
Mhm. Gotcha. Welcome. Welcome to my world. Come to the dark side. Awesome. Well, we're getting close to our time, but I wanted to ask you, is there anything else that we didn't cover, that you want everybody to know about you or about your experiences?
I think, I don't know, I feel like my whole life has just represented a lot of resilience. So I would just like to end on a note of where you are today does not define where you're going tomorrow, and ensure that you're leaning into your strengths always, because they will bring you to magical places where you can be celebrated and where you can feel like you're bringing value each and every day. And also just the power of reflection. Every experience that you've had in your career, no matter if it was a job that you hated, it could be, a teller at a bank, it doesn't matter what it is. Just make sure that you know there was a value in that experience and it did teach you something that you can take to another organization, as you continue to develop, right? Like you
Yeah.
may want to get to point B, but there may be little A's that you go through before you get to that point B, where you can really maximize yourself. Don't give up, and make sure you keep, looking for opportunities to grow yourself. Even when they're not given to you, you go and find them for your own, through organizations, through different projects that you want to start on your own, side hustles, anything that fuels your passion.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Keila. I want to give the folks here, if any of you have a question for Keila, that you want to know that we didn't talk about, feel free to use this time to bring it up. I am, I was just checking out the chat. Yes, so feel free. But one of the important things that why we do this is really to grow community. And so we want people who feel like, they haven't, they feel alone in this community, or they just haven't connected with other people. It's like, oh, I didn't know all these people were doing this. We want you to be part of our community. So first, I at least would like I'm going to share in the chat. I'm gonna drop our LinkedIn. So please, I'm putting Kayla's in there. I'm gonna put mine in there. Please connect with us. If you have other questions or just are looking for spaces to connect with other people in the Agile community or even just the product management community, feel free to connect with us there. If you have or want to know more about Agile in Color ourselves, we also have an interest form so that our team can connect with you and find out what your needs are, how we can support you. If you want to do stuff for Agile in Color, we're more than happy to have you, because we always need volunteers, whether it's with supporting, like share your stories, or if it's coaching, mentoring, all of those things. So please feel free to come with us.